everybody, it's Mrs. Ternitza. I'm sorry it took me so long to get the 3rd through 5th grade library lesson done, but I'm here now, and we can't be at school together right now, so I'm bringing the library lesson to you. So let's get started. Alright guys, we are going to talk about conflict and resolution. If you remember, we have talked about story elements before, and conflict and resolution were two of the story elements. If you remember, we have characters in a fiction story, we have the setting in a fiction story, we have the plot, which is the beginning, middle, and end of a fiction story, and we also have the conflict, or that also stands for the problem in the story, and the resolution, which also stands for the solution in the story. So today, in this lesson, we are going to concentrate on conflict and resolution. Okay, so your learning intention is that you can use strategies to help your reading comprehension. And success is that you can complete activities that demonstrate your understanding of select reading strategies. And knowing your story elements and being able to pick those out of a story, those are very good reading strategies for you to understand what you read. Okay, so how do good readers better understand what they read? Well, we have talked about your reading strategies, the different things that your teacher has been teaching you all year long and in your other grades, and knowing about story elements is one of those strategies. So just listening to your teacher and understanding the different reading strategies, and definitely picking books that you like, that you're interested in. And it could be fiction or it could be nonfiction, but something that holds your interest, something that you really like, will also help you better understand what you're reading. Alrighty, what we are going to do is we are going to listen to this story called The Trial of Cardigan Jones. And we are going to decide after the story what was the problem and what was the solution, or what was the conflict and what was the resolution. So let's take a listen and see if we can decide or pick out those two story elements.
The Trial of Cardigan Jones. Cardigan walked by Mrs. Brown's house just as she was putting a fresh-baked apple pie in her window. Cardigan loved pies. He walked over and smelled the pie. A neighbor next door saw him, and a milkman driving by saw him too. Cardigan was new in town, and they weren't sure what he was up to. A moment later, Mrs. Brown came back to the window, and the pie was gone. She was so upset she called the police. She told them that she'd seen a moose just a few minutes before, so they drove around the block and stopped Cardigan. Noticing that he had pie crust on his shirt, they arrested him, even though he insisted he hadn't stolen the pie. A judge and a jury were chosen to decide if he stole the pie or not. The neighbor and the milkman were called as witnesses. Cardigan's trial started the next day. Mrs. Brown took the stand first. "Is there anyone in the courtroom that you saw the day the pie disappeared?" the judge asked her. "Yes," she said. "That moose over there." She pointed to Cardigan. There was a murmur from the crowd. "He did it. He's guilty," someone said. "We don't know that yet," said the judge. The rabbit then took the stand. "Did you see anyone near the pie?" the judge asked the rabbit. "Sure did," said the rabbit. "That moose right there. He stole it." "No, I didn't," shouted Cardigan. "I didn't steal it, I promise." "Order," shouted the judge. Cardigan turned, and his antlers bumped a statue and sent it crashing to the floor. It made a really loud noise, and the jury gave Cardigan dirty looks. "Next witness," shouted the judge. The milkman then took the stand. "Who did you see at the time the pie was taken?" the judge asked. "The moose," he said. No question about it. He walked right up to the window. His face was practically touching the pie. By now, some folks were convinced that Cardigan took the pie, even though the judge kept saying, "We still don't have any proof." Finally, Cardigan was called to the stand. As he crossed the courtroom, his antlers got all wrapped up in the flag. It took him over a minute to get untangled. "He's a troublemaker," declared a gopher. Others nodded in agreement as the judge asked, "Well, Moose, did you walk up to the pie?" "Well, yes, but just to smell it," said Cardigan softly. "I knew it!" shouted a goat. "Lock him up." "Order," commanded the judge. "Order in the court." "But I didn't take it," insisted Cardigan. "Honest." He stood up, and his antlers knocked the judge's gavel to the floor. "Sit down," shouted the judge. But as Cardigan went to sit, he bumped the judge with his antlers. The judge fell to the ground. "He hit the judge!" shouted one of the security guards. They grabbed Cardigan and started taking him away. The jury members had made up their minds, but the judge stood up and said, "Now, hold on just one moment. I'm curious about something," he said. "Follow me." He walked out of the courtroom, and everyone followed him through the town. They reached Mrs. Brown's house, and the judge walked around the outside to the window where the pie had been. Sure enough, there, smushed all over the bushes, was the apple pie. It didn't smell very good anymore. "You knocked it off the window with those giant antlers of yours, you silly moose," said the judge, laughing. It was an accident. Everyone immediately felt terrible for being so rotten to Cardigan, and the jury proclaimed him not guilty right then and there. To make it up to him, they had a party in his honor, and Mrs. Brown baked a pie especially for him, even after he broke her favorite vase.
Okay, guys, let's talk about it. So we're looking for the conflict or the problem, and what was the resolution or solution to the problem? Well, turns out Cardigan the moose, he was new in town, and he went up to the window where the apple pie was, and he was looking at it and smelling it. And then after he left, the owner came back to the window and realized the pie was gone. So her first thought was, somebody stole it. So she called the police, and they looked around, and she said to look for the moose, and they found Cardigan the moose. And what was the one thing that Cardigan had on his clothes that made him look guilty? Let's think about it. Well, he had the pie crumbs on his coat, so they just assumed, oh, you must have stolen it. So they took him, and he went, and they had the court hearing, and everybody kept saying, "Who did you see at the window smelling the pie?" And everybody kept saying, the moose, Cardigan the moose." And he kept saying, "But I didn't take it, I didn't take it." But everybody kept saying, "Oh, it was him, because he was at the window." But then, what kept happening when he was inside the courtroom with Cardigan? What kept happening with Cardigan and his antlers? Let's think about it. Well, he kept knocking everything over. He knocked the flagpole over, and then he knocked the judge's gavel over, and he made the judge fall on the ground. And then, that's when the judge thought, wait a minute. All this knocking over stuff with his antlers, maybe, I think that the judge was thinking maybe that had something to do with where the pie went. So I think that that's why the judge took them back to the house and looked around, which should have done in the first place, and saw that Cardigan had actually knocked the pie down with his antlers into the bushes, and that he hadn't really stolen it. So that was the solution. The solution was the judge thought, wait a minute, let's go back, let's take a look, let's see if maybe there was another explanation for why the pie went missing. And he did, and it showed Cardigan was innocent. So yay, Cardigan. Okay, let's take a look over here. This is what I would have had you do had we been in school together. This is conflict and resolution. The directions on it say we just talked about the problem and solution in the story. In the box below, write a different way that the problem could have been solved. So remember, we talked about the problem being that everybody kept claiming that Cardigan took the pie, and the solution was that the judge took him back to the house and realized he had knocked it off, that he didn't really take it. But I want you guys to think about it and think, what would be a different way that they could have solved the problem? Now, if you get a chance to do this with paper and pencil, or if you want to type it, it's totally up to you. This is Mrs. T's school email address. It's mturnitsa, TURNITSA, @hampton.k12.va.us. If you would like to take this challenge and write a little paragraph about a different way the problem could have been solved, and then email it to me, that would be great. I would love to see your guys' work if you decide you would like to do that. All right, guys, well, we are done for this lesson, and I will come to you hopefully next week with another lesson. And I also have some read alouds that I have been putting on my Twitter account. So if you have a chance and you're able to take a look at those, that would be great. I hope everybody's doing well, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye.